Hello and welcome to my channel. I hope you enjoy this story. I'm going to try and upload a new story each day. The Lurking Leviathan at the Needles Lighthouse. Holly had always found solace in the rhythmic crashing of the waves against the rocky shores of the Isle of Wight. The quaint fishing town of Freshwater, with its picturesque cottages and bustling harbour, had been her home for as long as she could remember. The Needles Lighthouse stood sentinel on the western tip, a steadfast guardian against the treacherous waters. But lately, the once comforting sounds of the sea had taken on an ominous tone. It started with the whispers, fishermen returning with tales of something enormous moving beneath the waves. They spoke of a monstrous shadow that blotted out the sun, a creature of unimaginable size lurking in the depths. At first, Holly dismissed the stories as seafaring folklore, the kind of ghost stories fishermen told to pass the time. But as the sightings became more frequent, a palpable sense of fear began to grip the town. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an eerie glow over the water, Holly stood on the cliffs near the Needles Lighthouse. She had always loved watching the sunset from this spot, but tonight, the beauty of the scene was marred by an unsettling chill. The wind whispered through the tall grass, carrying with it fragments of the fishermen's conversations, words like Leviathan and ancient terror. As she gazed out at the darkening sea, Holly's thoughts were interrupted by a sudden splash. Her heart pounded as she peered into the inky blackness below. For a moment she thought she saw a massive shape moving just beneath the surface, but it was gone almost as soon as it appeared. Shaking off the encounter as a trick of the light, she made her way back to the safety of the village, Thorny's not at her. The next morning, the town was abuzz with news. Another boat had been found adrift, its crew missing without a trace. The vessel, the Sea Sprite Asterisk, was discovered near the Needles, its hull gouged with deep, ragged scratches. The sight of the abandoned boat, coupled with the fresh tales of the Leviathan, sent a wave of panic through the community. Determined to uncover the truth, Holly resolved to visit the lighthouse keeper, old Tom, who had lived at the Needles for decades. If anyone knew the secrets of the sea, it was him. As she approached the lighthouse, its tall, weather-beaten structure looming over her, Holly felt a sense of foreboding. The once reassuring beacon now seemed like a silent witness to something sinister. Old Tom greeted her with a wary glance, his eyes shadowed by years of solitude and hardship. He listened in silence as Holly recounted the recent events, his expression growing grimmer with each word. When she finished, he sighed deeply and motioned for her to follow him inside. The interior of the lighthouse was cramped and cluttered with nautical charts, faded photographs, and shelves filled with dusty books. Tom led her to a small table where he produced a worn, leather-bound journal. "This," he said, "was kept by my predecessor, Keeper Danson. That contains records of strange occurrences dating back over a century." Holly flipped through the pages, her eyes widening as she read accounts of monstrous sea creatures, mysterious disappearances. One entry caught her attention. August 12, 1874. Sighted the Leviathan near the Needles. Its eyes glowed with a malevolent intelligence. I fear it guards something beneath the waves, something ancient and terrible. Do you believe it?" Holly asked, her voice trembling. Old Tom nodded sullenly. "The sea is full of mysteries, many of which we cannot comprehend. The Leviathan is real, and it's my belief that it guards an old dark secret, but one that must not be disturbed despite his warnings." She couldn't shake the feeling that the creature's emergence was no coincidence. The town deserved answers, and perhaps by confronting the Leviathan they could lay to rest the fear that gripped them. That night, under the cover of darkness, Holly set out in a small boat, armed with only a lantern and her resolve. The sea was eerily calm, the surface like black glass reflecting the star-studded sky. As she approached the Needles, the lighthouse beam swept over the water, casting long shadows that seemed to dance and twist. A sudden surge rocked the boat, nearly throwing Holly overboard. Her lantern flickered wildly as she struggled to maintain her balance. Then she saw it, a colossal shape rising from the depths, its scales glistening in the pale light. The Leviathan's eyes, glowing with an otherworldly luminescence, locked onto hers. There was an intelligence there, a malevolent awareness that chilled her to the core. Before she could react, the creature submerged again, leaving only ripples in its wake. Holly's heart raced, but she knew she had to follow it. She rowed closer to the Needles, where the water grew darker and colder. The boat lurched as it crossed an unseen boundary, and suddenly the depths below seemed to open up, revealing a cavernous maw. Holly's lantern illuminated the entrance to an underwater cave, its walls covered in ancient markings and carvings. She realized with a start that this was what the Leviathan had been guarding, a hidden sanctuary untouched for centuries. Summoning her courage, she dove into the water and swam towards the cave. Inside, the air was thick with an oppressive energy. The walls were lined with strange, bioluminescent plants that cast an eerie glow. As Holly ventured deeper, she discovered a series of stone tablets, each inscribed with runes and symbols she couldn't decipher. In the center of the chamber stood a pedestal upon which rested a large, intricately carved amulet. Holly reached out to touch the amulet, but a sudden roar echoed through the cave, shaking the very ground beneath her. The Leviathan emerged from the shadows, its massive form blocking her escape. Its eyes bore into hers, and in that moment she understood. The amulet was the key to an ancient power, one that could either save or doom her town. With a surge of determination, Holly grabbed the amulet and held it aloft. The Leviathan let out a deafening bellow, but did not attack. Instead, it seemed to bow its head, as if acknowledging her courage. Holly felt a strange connection to the creature, a bond forged in the depths of the sea. As she emerged from the cave, amulet in hand, the first light of dawn broke over the horizon. The town of Freshwater would soon awaken, and with the amulet's power, Holly knew she could protect them from the darkness that lurked beneath the waves. The Leviathan vanished into the deep, leaving Holly with a profound sense of awe and responsibility. She had faced the ancient terror and lived to tell the tale, but she also knew that the sea held many more secrets. As the Needles Lighthouse continued its watch over the treacherous waters, Holly vowed to safeguard her home and honor the uneasy truce she had forged with the lurking Leviathan. Word of Holly's encounter with the Leviathan spread quickly through Freshwater. The villagers were awed and relieved by her bravery, but the undercurrent of fear remained. They knew the Leviathan was still out there, watching, waiting. Holly herself was changed, a hero in the eyes of many, but burdened with the knowledge that her town's safety hinged on her understanding of the amulet's power. Over the following weeks, Holly dedicated herself to deciphering the ancient symbols on the stone tablets she had discovered in the underwater cave. She spent long hours in the lighthouse, poring over old Tom's books and consulting with scholars from the mainland. The amulet, she learned, was a relic from a lost civilization that had once inhabited the Isle of Wight. It held the power to control the forces of nature, a power that could be both a blessing and a curse. One stormy night, as the wind howled outside and waves crashed violently against the cliffs, Holly had a breakthrough. She realized that the amulet's power was tied to the elements, and that she could use it to communicate with the Leviathan. With this newfound understanding, she made her way to the shore, where the waves seemed to beckon her. Standing at the water's edge, Holly clutched the amulet and called out to the Leviathan. The storm intensified, the wind whipping her hair and the rain stinging her face. But she stood firm, her voice rising above the tempest. Slowly the sea began to calm, and a dark shape emerged from the depths. The Leviathan surfaced, its massive head looming above the water. Holly felt a mixture of fear and awe as she met its glowing gaze. She held the amulet high, feeling its power surge through her. In a voice that was not entirely her own, she spoke to the creature. "Guardian of the depths," she intoned, "I seek to understand the bond we share. Why do you guard this island? What secrets do you protect?" A low, rumbling sound filled the air, and Holly realized it was speaking to her, not in words, but in images and emotions. She saw visions of a time long past, of a thriving civilization that had harnessed the power of the amulet to protect themselves from the dangers of the sea. The Leviathan had been their guardian, a creature of immense power and intelligence, created to safeguard the amulet and its secrets. But the civilization had fallen, consumed by their own hubris and the very power they had sought to control. The amulet had been lost, and the Leviathan had remained, a solitary sentinel watching over the ruins of a forgotten world. Holly's heart ached with the weight of this knowledge. She understood now that the Leviathan was not a monster, but a protector, bound to its duty by ancient magic. She also realized that the amulet could either restore balance or bring about destruction, depending on how it was used. "You thank you," she whispered. I promised to honor your legacy and protect our home." Holly watched until it disappeared from sight, then turned to make her way back to the village, a new sense of purpose guiding her steps. With the amulet's power, Holly helped the villagers rebuild their lives. She used its elemental magic to calm storms, aid in fishing, and ensure bountiful harvests. The once fearful town began to thrive, and the shadow of the Leviathan became a symbol of hope and protection. But Holly never forgot the weight of her responsibility. She continued to study the ancient texts, seeking to learn all she could about the amulet and its origins. She knew that the balance was delicate, and that the power she wielded was not hers alone. It was a trust, passed down through generations to be used wisely and with reverence. As the years passed, Holly became known as the Guardian of Freshwater, a title she accepted with humility and gratitude. The bond she had forged with the Leviathan remained a silent pact between land and sea. And as the Needles Lighthouse continued its watch, its beam cutting through the darkness, Holly knew that the true guardian of the Isle of Wight still lurked beneath the waves, a timeless sentinel safeguarding the secrets of the deep. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please don't forget to like, and even better, like and subscribe. Thank you very much, and I hope you have had or have a great day.